Welcome back to my podcast. A lot of people ask me, what's it like being married to Marilyn Monroe or going out with Marilyn Monroe? And obviously, I don't know that because I'm not her. But I was going to ask ex-boyfriends, but I thought that could get kind of weird because you'd have boyfriends that probably don't like you anymore and would say horrible things about you, or boyfriends that still like you and say it's all really nice. But I thought, what a good idea it would be if I could ask somebody who's married to a really famous impersonator and what is it like being married to them. So I thought of my friend Jodie Dupuis, and Jodie is married to Jay Dupuis. Jay Dupuis won the world's greatest Elvis in 2014 at Graceland. So that's a pretty big deal because we were once told that one day the whole world will be Elvis impersonators because there's so many of them. So to be the world's greatest is pretty incredible. So she's married to him. So what's it like being married to him? Unbelievable, I think. So, Jodie, you're calling me all the way from America, and hopefully there's not going to have feedback on this. I think it's because we're talking to each other through Facebook Messenger. So, how are you, Jodie?
Hi, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. Now, a lot of people would be saying she's calling from America, but she doesn't sound American. That's because she's from the UK. So, how did you meet Elvis? How did you meet Jay?
Well, we certainly didn't meet in Yorkshire, which is where I'm from. My mum is a massive Elvis fan, and we were on vacation over in Memphis in 2015. Jay was working, and yeah, we met right in Memphis, in the heart of it.
And what were you doing in Memphis? She's an Elvis fan, so is she at the convention or the big Elvis week?
Yeah, so every August in Memphis they have a week which is dedicated to Elvis, whereas basically all Elvis fans from around the world, they go and they share their love for Elvis, and there's lots of shows going on and contests and the ultimate. So yeah, me and my mum was just there on vacation. We was doing all the tours and seeing some of the shows, and yeah, Jay and I just met.
How did you meet though? So he was obviously playing Elvis in Elvis Week for this competition to be the ultimate Elvis. Is that how you met?
We did. I mean, I'd not seen him perform. We was just in like an after show party, and he was there. He had his normal clothes on, so I guess he was like half Jay, half Elvis. He had his...
So an Elvis head, because I know this. I call this
Elvis head.
Yeah, so I say this is Marilyn. I say, I've got Marilyn head on, but I've got normal clothes, and that's sometimes when we're working, we have to keep our heads on.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds so crazy, really, but yeah. So that's how I met him. He was, like I say, yeah, with his Elvis head on and dressed as Jay. So.
Okay, so those of you who don't know Jay dresses in what? Jeans, t-shirt. So it would have been like, it could have still been dressed as kind of an Elvis-y, casual Elvis.
Yeah.
So was you an Elvis fan? Because it sounds like your mum just dragged you along.
Kind of, yeah. I grew up with Elvis because she was such a big Elvis fan. There was no way out of it, really. And I wasn't a massive Elvis fan, but I.
Did you fancy Elvis? That's what everyone's going to ask. Did you fancy Elvis?
Not really. I mean, obviously we can't deny he is off the scale. He was a great looking man, but not really. I mean, I guess because of when I was born, it wasn't really, I didn't really think about it until I kind of started seeing these ETAs on stage, and I found a whole new respect of, wow, yeah. I kind of went back into going over, Elvis's career and finding more about him. So
it's really strange because I think my boyfriends would say they didn't fancy Marilyn Monroe. Actually, some of them have told me it's just not her type at all, and it's me that they like, but they're going to say that. So you got together, and obviously you go back to England, and I know I'm not going to go into your details here, but finally you're together and you get married, and now you're living in America together. Great life, bar coronavirus. So the main question is, because we could talk all day about this subject, but what is it like being married to a really well-known impersonator? Because Jay is, he won the ultimate Elvis, so a lot of Marilyn fans, Elvis fans will know him and know of him, and he does these big sellout arenas. He's been all over the world. So you've got a date, if you like, a person that's kind of famous in their own right, that he has his own fan following, but also is representing probably the most famous man that ever lived in pop music, bar Michael Jackson. Is there what's the worst part of it and the best part of it? So, like, if I had to say to you, what's the great things about dating an impersonator? Tell me those before we break our heart with the horrible stuff.
The greatest thing, I mean, obviously Jay is so humble. He doesn't see himself as being Elvis. He gets on that stage and he's playing a role, but he's doing an amazing role. So people actually, I guess, just see him as Elvis. So you can imagine years ago what those ladies was like. If you've seen clips of how it was with Elvis, that's exactly how it is. And I mean, they think they are seeing Elvis on stage. And yeah, it can be wild. It does depend what part of the world you're in. As I'm sure you'll know, the fans are different all over. But yeah, it's wild. It's just good to see him appreciated and, respected for the talent he has to.
Yeah, I think that, because I've had some boyfriends that have been performers, and when they're on stage, you're like, oh, you're so sexy.
Right.
and you see them being, admired, and you think, well, that's mine. That's coming home with me.
Yeah. It makes me feel proud, and so proud of him.
And I know that I've seen Jay with you. I know he loves you so much. So I know that when he comes off stage, he's just completely back to being Jay, the husband, and obviously father to your son, River, which is amazing because I've seen that little boy grow and he's gorgeous. And he does Elvis impressions as well, doesn't he?
He does. He does. Following in his footsteps.
So we've got mini Elvis coming through.
Right. But if you ask me the best thing about being married to him, it would have to be the places that we get to travel. Where we go is we've travelled quite a few amazing places, which we probably wouldn't have done if he didn't have this job. So that's probably my favourite thing about it.
What's the best place that you got to go through him being Elvis?
I'd have to say Australia.
Oh, I'd love to go there.
Yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, it was probably my favourite.
Do they really love Elvis down there then, do they? Is it a big deal? Are you going to go back? Is there any chance of you going back there?
Yeah, I mean, Jay was supposed to be working in Australia quite a few times in 2020 before COVID hit. But for this year, he does have some plans towards the end of the year to be back over there. So we haven't really discussed the ins and outs. But yeah, I kind of cherry pick where I go now. So it depends how tropical they sound.
So if he gets a contract of like a cruise ship going around Iceland in the freezing cold, he can do that alone. But if it's like a cruise around the Caribbean, stopping,
we'll be there. Yeah.
That's great that they let you guys go, because I've always had issues with that, because sometimes it's really hard to get partners to come along. So it's great when a client is so welcoming and it's like, bring your family. And that's how we met at Stars in Concert. If people are wondering how I know Jay and Jodie, I met them at Berlin in Stars in Concert because Jay had come over to be in our show and he was amazing. Okay, now we got to do the worst part. The worst part of dating.
Well, it has to be when some fans, there's a line, isn't there? And I'm sure you know yourself. That line can be overstepped, and that's really hard as a wife to kind of like, just sit back and not want to say anything. And there's been a few
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
How do you deal with fans? Because a lot of fans love you guys. I know that with the Elvis wives, a lot of the fans, the nice ones, love the Elvis wives. They treat them like probably how they treat Priscilla in a way. Like they buy you gifts and take it. But like you say, there's some fans that really don't know the line, do they?
No. And I mean, most of them, they are great. And we've made a lot of friendships, just from them coming to see Jay and being fans to now they're like really good friends of ours. I used to struggle at the beginning. It was all new to me. It was something I wasn't, used to. But as time goes on, you just kind of, I don't know, it kind of gets easier. And these women they're just having a great time. And,
I guess
Jay's pretty good at kind of, letting them know there's a line. And
I guess they're not even seeing Jay. I know with people that, I remember once... my Frank Sinatra, I was working Frank Sinatra, not the real one, obviously, people. And he came out the toilet and he said, there's a guy in there that really thinks he has a chance with you. And I said, is he good looking? Because he might do. He said, no, he's just this, like, you know, businessman, you know, thinks he's God's gift to the world. And he said, I think she really likes me because I was in character, obviously. We have to, like Jay, Elvis is a character like Marilyn, that we're very loving characters. We're not standoffish. And I think sometimes these people forget, they don't see Susie or Jay, they see Marilyn or Elvis. So a lot of these fans are really not actually chatting up Jay or coming on. They think they're coming on to Elvis. I think that's where if they had to live with Jay every day, when he's got all the makeup all over the towels and all things like that, right, they might forget.
more makeup than I have, and yeah.
I think that's important, though, that you do see the sides of us impersonators that are all those makeups and those days where you might have just had a really bad day and your son's having a tantrum and you've got to go on stage and be this professional. How do you deal with that when he comes home? And also during Corona, a lot of us entertainers feel a bit useless right now. So it's our partners are there to make us feel better and go, you know what, you're brilliant at what you do and you'll be back. How have you coped with those diva days that we have as impersonators?
Yeah, so to be honest, Jay's pretty good. He really is. I'm not going to say he's kind of acts like a diva, but I used to find it hard when I used to try and, when he's kind of getting into that role and I'm trying to be there as still just being his wife, and he's trying to, you know, make himself into this Elvis and get in the zone, and I'm asking him questions and, you know, trying just normal life. It kind of used to be really odd as I was still talking to Jay and he was actually in a role of somebody else. And it used to kind of just kind of confuse me a little bit. Like, so what I do now is that's his job. And I just try and kind of leave him in his zone to do his thing. I don't expect him to talk about what we're having for dinner or anything like that when he's in that zone. I just kind of stay out of it.
That's really interesting. And that I find that interesting because obviously I'm an impersonator and I've never asked like this question. I'm actually interested in this subject. I don't really care about who's listening. That's so interesting because I find when I'm in Marilyn mode, I lose a little bit of myself. So I guess if someone was talking to me about, Susie, did you pay the electric bill, would kind of throw me to then go on stage and try and channel this image. That's interesting that you now see that he's acting. So he's in his acting role at the moment. I just need to, you know, because you wouldn't turn up at someone's normal job as they're like at a checkout, go, by the way, did you pay the electricity bill? They'd be like, I'm at work right now. So, yeah, that's
I usually think like when the wig's on, he's Elvis now, leave him to it. When the wig's off, okay, I can ask him, you know, some questions of life now, you know. And so yeah, that's how it wasn't always easy to kind of understand that, but like I said, as time's gone on, it's his job. So I kind of just, you know, if he worked a 9-to-5 job, I wouldn't be there getting involved in what he was doing. So I just try and give him his space to do that.
Well, I think that's your success. I really do. I think that's probably why you're really happily married. We're going to round this up by saying, everyone asked me this question and you can say I refuse to answer, but people have said to me, has anyone ever, your boyfriend's been to bed with you while you're still dressed as Marilyn? And I never answer that question, so you don't have to, but people will ask you. So have you been to bed with Elvis or only to bed with Jay?
I've only been to bed with Jay.
Brilliant.
But I have been asked, I have been asked by a woman what it's like to sleep with Elvis.
Yeah,
we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and you're like, mind your own business.
Right, exactly.
Oh, Jodie, thank you so much. I've had some real problems with my mic today, so I really hope this has come out okay. But before I go and before I leave you, can you tell me and tell our listeners if they want to look up Jodie Dupuis and see him in his you can follow Jodie on her Instagram, and I bought one of your Lumi spas. Jodie sells these amazing skincare things, and my skin is brilliant considering all these these Lumi spas. They're great. So check out Jodie Dupuis on Instagram. But Jay Dupuis on Instagram, and what's his website if people want to check out his website?
It's just Jodie Dupuis as Elvis, and you can find that on Facebook and Instagram. And if you put it in Google, just Jodie Dupuis as Elvis, it will come up.
Brilliant. And like me, he's doing cameos as well, isn't he? So you can book actual messages from Elvis. I know my mum would love that. My mum would love a birthday message from Elvis. So I might be booking one of those myself.
Yeah.
All right, Jodie, thank you so much. So that's what it's like dating an impersonator. Hope you enjoyed it.